Welcome back to another episode of Close to Broke. Let's get the lighting a little brighter. My name is Kieran, and today we're going to be hopping into a home game that happens to be a live stream. Nice to meet you, Kieran.
I'm doing commentary.
Oh, cool. Great to meet you, man. Well, shout out to that gentleman, by the way. But we're going to be hopping in. Happy to get in the mix. Should be a good action game. Let's see if we can't bribe people to get the straddle on. It'll be a 5-5 game, 1,000 max, but it's match to stack. Today's going to be a doozy. We're going to be here for only a couple hours. As long as that live stream is going, we're going to be on. And the second it's over, we're going to race over to the World Series and hop into the main event. Thank you guys so much for watching. A big shout out to, I think it's called Live City Poker. They're hosting this. It's a really cool venue for a home casino. It's kind of interesting. Oddly enough, more secure than most of the live streams I've been to. In a home game, they take away your phone, so you can't have it at the table. So have a lovely day, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoy the video. Hopefully you guys enjoy the live stream. Well, folks, you guys couldn't keep us out of the limelight long enough. Although there are no streams in this particular week in the LA area, we found another really fun place to come play. So just before we get into the episode, I wanted to give a very generous shout out, I guess, to Live City Poker in LA. If you guys are from the LA area and would like to play on stream but don't want to play the really high stakes that, you know, most of these things offer, I'd highly recommend it. They treated me like family, and I could only imagine they do the same to you. So if you guys are ever interested, I'll leave their Instagram description or whatever somewhere on the screen. Live City Poker LA. Otherwise, let's hop into the very first hand because I'm not getting paid enough to do all that. Just kidding. They're family. It's all good, baby. Anyways, in this very first hand, we look down a king-queen offsuit in like the first or second shuffle of this session. Things are just getting going. I'm in for 1K, and so is our opponent in this hand. We make it $20 to go from the hijack. We are playing 5-5 here, but the game is playing a little bigger than that. Cutoff makes a 3-bet here to $55. Well, against that specific sizing, I'm never folding, not even 3x. Feels like a pretty easy just call. Sucks that I'm out of position, but that doesn't matter when the flop comes king, queen, 6, rainbow. Flopping top 2 pair, this is what dreams are made of. I check it over to my opponent, continuing to play in flow. The rhythmic state of poker is quite a beautiful place to be. Our opponent decides to c-bet here for $50, so going small pre-flop, going small on the flop. I've only got one idea for our opponent here, who, by the way, is Sean, who's an absolute gentleman. Sorry for cracking, you know, your aces on this flop. I make it $200 to go as a raise. Obviously, I'm targeting hands specifically like aces and ace-king. Obviously, this board is going to be really favorable for the 3-better. He's going to have all the ace-queens, ace-kings, pocket queens. But considering we do have king-queen, we've, blocked top two, the top 2 sets. It's only, 2 combinations of nutted holdings that we're worried about. And then a ton of outstanding hands like aces, ace-king are obviously, a ton of combos of that left. Anyways, we're targeting those hands with our raise. Music to our ears when our opponent decides to 3-bet to $400. At this point, I'm just trying to get all the money in the middle now. I know I have the best hand, so I end up deciding to jam it all in for about $900. Our opponent pretty quickly obliges and makes the call. We're going off to 2 runouts that we luckily end up holding against pocket aces. So, like we mentioned, cracking pocket aces on the very first or second hand of the stream, that's pretty good. Hopefully that's a sign of things to come. The one thing I will note, and you guys will see, is my goal is to play at least 50% of hands in the stream. Smaller stakes than what we're used to, but we're going to combat that by really bringing the action. I want to be one of the highest VPIPs in the game. That is my main goal. It's not fun for me to get invited to a fun game and just knit it up. That is not what I'm going to do. I'd never do that ever. I've got to bring the action. I've got to hold my appearance here. And yeah, hopefully we can win some money while doing all that. In this following hand, we have an example of how wide I'm willing to get to make this a fun stream. We're under the gun and we look down at the old blackjack hand, the one that you double down with, 8-3 of hearts. Well, unfortunately, this is not blackjack, and this is not a very good poker hand, but it's suited. I'm under the gun, so I should be having a pretty narrow range here. I'm making $20 to go. We're playing 6-handed, I think, at this point. The hijack and the small blind both call. We're going off to a flop that comes king, 3, 4 with 2 diamonds and a club. At this point, I go from bluffing to, I guess, bliffing. Remember that little term I was trying to throw out there, float out there, semi-bluff? Instead of that, we're going to call it a bliff. Or if it's a little bluff, we call it a bliff. Honestly, I'm betting for value and equity denial. We can get a ton of value from a bunch of really random draws that consist of flush draws, obviously, as well as some other random straight draws. Either way, I make it $40 to go, and both of our opponents fold queen high. So, not bad for the old 8-3 suited. Happy to take it down. Things are progressing pretty quickly here, as we're moving right along to another hand. Under the gun limps, I'm in the hijack. I make it $25 to go as an isolation. The button cold calls, and then the small blind, who's one of the strong players here, decides to 3-bet to $100. In my opinion, this is going to be too small. I feel like going 4x is okay if it's only me, but there is a player in between us. I feel like he should be going a little larger, around 150 or 125. Again, to de-incentivize me, probably not a word, but we made it one. Anyways, against that smaller sizing, I'm going to go ahead and make the call. We're going heads up to a flop that comes 8-6-3 rainbow. After a brief moment of thinking, my opponent decides to make the check. Immediately, I'm pretty confident that I can range my opponent on ace-king, ace-queen, maybe king-queen suited, something like that. But for the most part, I feel like he has an ace-high and a good one at that. If that's the case, and I'm pretty confident in my read and my live reads, I'm going to go ahead and bet to try to get him off a better hand. I make it $90 to go. I don't have to go too massive here. Again, you know, if I bet 150 or 80, anything in between, I feel like the same thing is going to get accomplished. He's either going to call because he thinks he has the best hand and has to call once, or he's going to fold because this is not a good flop for him. It seems like he's going to go with the first option as he decides to call because he thinks I'm full of baloney. Anyways, we're going off to a turn card that is the best card in the deck as it comes to 5 of diamonds. If it doesn't give me the best hand against, obviously, what we can see that he has is ace-king, it does give us a massive amount of equity. When the opponent checks it over to me, I don't think checking back here is a good idea. One, because I don't think king high has a ton of showdown value. I don't think he's ever floating the flop with queen high or jack high. So betting here, I think, really maximizes my fold equity. With about 400 some odd dollars in the pot, I decide to go massive after his check to me. I make it a $400 bet, looking to get my opponent off of exactly what he's holding. It seems like my live read has done me justice here, as after a brief moment of thinking, my opponent decides to make the fold. You know, unfortunately that he made the wrong fold there, but it's really hard to see him ever making that call there. I bet his size to make it look like we'd have to commit our stacks, which inevitably we would have. If he jams, I'm never folding for the extra couple $100. So either way, happy with the way that hand turned out. I feel like we played that to a T. We got lucky that we hit some extra equity on the turn, but we were pretty much going to be going blast as long as it came low cards. Either way, let's move along and let's hop into some more adversity. As we continue to progress along with today's session, we're in the following hand where we look down at ace-10 offsuit from under the gun. We make it $20 to go. The hijack and the cutoff make the call. And we're going off to a flop that comes ace-10 deuce, 2 diamonds, and a club. Bang. We flop such a massive hand here. Top 2 pair. And as you guys can see, our opponents have some little bit of excitement in their holdings as well. With the action checked over to me, I'm looking to go 2/3 pot here. I got to bet on the bigger side. There's a ton of straight draws, flush draws out there, and we've got to give him some pretty not great prices to continue along. I make it $45 to go. Sean decides to make the call, and Will from the cutoff decides to jam all in here for $350. Well, as the next day is sure as heck as coming, I'm never folding. Top 2 pairs way too good to fold, so there's no reason to bore you with that. I pretty quickly make the rejam to get Sean out of the way there with whatever random holding he has, or maybe overcalling with an inferior ace or a flush draw. He decides to pretty quickly make the fold, and our opponent asks us if we can run it twice, and I say yes, of course we can. He lets us know that he has a flush draw and a pair. Sounds good to me. We're going off to a run out that is not very good on the first one, as he ends up rivering a 3 of diamonds. All right, it's never fun when you pretty much have the negative free roll here. We lost the first one, so we're just playing to get half the pot now, and that is immediately destroyed. That dream is immediately eliminated, to be fair. As on the second board, the turn card comes a deuce. So he makes trips. So king deuce of diamonds is going to take this pot down. Unfortunate for us there is we flop a massive hand, but we get absolutely trucked over by the old king deuce of diamonds. Can't fault our opponent here. He had a ton of equity on that flop. It makes sense that we ended up getting it all in. But a massive pot not going in our favor. Hopefully we can battle back here as that one's going to put a dent in our armor. Alrighty, getting mixy in the Twixie. Oh my gosh, I would not have a great career as a rapper. We find ourselves in the hijack with 4-3 of clubs. 4 high never looks so pretty. I make it $20 to go. The cutoff calls, the button calls, and then the small blind, as we saw earlier, Ben makes a 3-bet to $80. Once again, in my opinion, this is a little bit too small of a 3-bet. With 2 callers of the $20, there is so much money, like dead money in the middle, that it gives every single person the opportunity to call, because again, it's just too small. And as we mentioned, every single person makes a call. Myself, the cutoff, the button, all call, and we're going far too many ways to a flop that comes 4-5-8 rainbow. All right, not a bad flop. We flop ourselves bottom pair. A little tricky when the small blind continues the aggression for $125. All right, now in my head, I'm thinking that, all right, there's a really high likely chance that my opponent has either ace, king, aces, or kings. And if that's the case, I think we can really get lucky here. And if we bink a 4 or a 3 or hit our backdoor flush draw or backdoor straight draw, we can get a ton of money. I end up making the pretty loose call here. Again, we're trying to get in the mix. You know, don't crucify me for it. We're here to have some fun. But with the action folding over to the button, he decides to raise it. Oh, that's not good. Our opponent min clicks it to $250. Well, that's kind of annoying. The small blind, who was the initial raiser, decides to make the call. Or at this point, we're getting like infinite to 1. Like, we're getting like 5,000 to 1 in pot odds. So in my head, I'm thinking that if I'm against somebody that's overplaying a top pair, and what I assume is pretty obvious at this point that the small blind has an overpair like aces or kings, if I can hit a 4 or a 3, there's a good chance that I can get all the money. I end up making the call here as, again, this is pretty much a sole pot odds call to a turn card that is majestical, something that people write books about. It's the 4. Oh my gosh. With the action checked over to me, at this point, both of my opponents have only in the realm of like $5 or whatever, $600 or whatever. And there's already just way too much money in this pot. I decide to open rip it. We have trips here. We're looking to get called by an overpair or a pair plus a straight draw or top pair that's, like I said, overplaying it. Our friend here, Will, decides to pretty quickly throw in the 1-chip call. And the small blind goes into the tank. And I'll let you guys listen to the audio here. It's a home game. Things are significantly more lax. We're just here spitting and spewing. And I immediately tell some funny things to our opponent in the small blind.
It still has a vested interest here. This is making it is a little. I definitely he definitely just called out his hand.
If I save the strength of my hand,
yeah, it's all good. Hey, it's all good. Hey, let's laugh about it and let's move on now. We're good. That's all. That would actually be cheating.
Closer Broke's pretty much telling Ben I have King's beat right now. I'm not sure why I'm not sure what the motivation was behind that, to be honest, but he's got a decision here. I'm surprised he's still tanking after
1,000% making the vlog.
So as you guys can see there, it's pretty obvious to me in person as well, obviously in post, that I can see the hands. Yeah, my opponent obviously has aces or kings. I don't know. I do this in my live streams. If you guys ever watch me play Splash Squads online, I've been live streaming that lately. I love calling people's hands without me being able to see them until I see it at Showdown. I do a pretty good job of ranging people and calling their hands out. Man, in this case, it does happen. Anyways, a small blind inevitably decides to make the fold. And unfortunately, our trips aren't very good because we're up against the nut straight, the flopped nut straight. Gosh darn it. If our opponent even makes it $350, it makes it a way easier fold. But against a min click, I just had to call. Either way, we've got to pay the piper here. Our opponent asks if we can run it twice. That seems fair. We do not improve on either run out, and that is all she wrote for that all in. Back-to-back hands, we make a ton of money. Back-to-back hands, we lose it all back. Anyways, we now find ourselves stuck in this game after starting off hot, but that's never stopped us before. If you guys have any hope for us and making a comeback, drop a like right now to put some run good energy out there. Maybe I can make it back, maybe I don't. Will we get our money back from the arch nemesis Will? Who knows? At this point, he's completely destroying us. And touche to him for that. All right, like I mentioned to you guys before, we've got to hit over that 40 or 50% VPIP. It's a smaller game, so I'm here to get in the mix. We're here to make a very exciting stream and an even more exciting poker vlog. Briefly, before we get into the next hand, I just want to show you guys the cumulative winnings to this point as well as the VPIP. And I just want to give you guys a massive shout out. Honestly, C2B is worthless without every single one of you guys. So I want to take the time and just want to say thank you. And there's no other better way to say it, I guess. I wish I had better verbiage and my grammar was a little stronger. But I freaking love you guys so much. I'm so thankful and grateful to have you guys in my corner. It feels nice that even when I lose, I feel like I have you guys to pick me up. And when I do well, you guys are there to make, reassure me that things are going okay. Either way, if you guys haven't already, please make sure to click the like button down below and make sure to click the subscribe button if you haven't already. If you guys are new, turn on the notification bell. Like I said, if you haven't already, it goes a really long way in helping our community grow. Either way, let's get back into the session as this next hand is a doozy.
Yeah, compare that to you, bro.
No, but even over there, I was like,
Cut off limps here for $5. I find myself on the button with King 4 of diamonds. From the button, I'm going to be isolating very often, especially these suited Broadway cards. I make it $25 to go. The small blind, the big blind, and the limper make the call. We're going 4 ways to a flop that has become bloated. That comes King 10-3 rainbow. We flop top pair, which is outstanding. What's not so outstanding is that my kicker sucks. Even more worrisome when the action checks to Will, and he decides to lead out here for $65. Well, that's interesting. The limper folds, and the action's on me. I'm never folding top pair with the backdoor flush draw. I end up making the call here. The small blind also makes the overcall, and we're going 3 ways off to a turn card that comes the 5 of diamonds. All right, we pick up a backdoor flush draw. Pretty much the best card in the deck we could ask for. That is not a 4. With the action checked over to me, there's one thing that you have to understand is in position in a pot where I already have showdown value. As you guys remember early in the session when I had king high, I had almost no showdown value. In this case, I do. I already have top pair. There's no reason to continue to bloat the pot. The problem is if I bet here and I get raised, it's annoying. I just lose my opportunity or the equity in the pot that I have if I get raised all in and I can't call. Whatever the case might be, that's not the play. I think the best thing to do here is check. So after it checks to me, we check it through, and we're going off to a river card that is the beautiful ace of diamonds. You know what that sounds like? The absolute nuts. Even more beautiful when the small blind Sean decides to lead out for $75. Will, with king 8, so he had us outkicked there, ends up making a very, very good laydown, and the action's now on me. At this point, I'm trying to figure out what the heck does my opponent have that he can be leading this river with. To be totally honest, the only things I can think of are maybe like 2 pairs or like ace X. So if that's the case, I don't think I can go super, super polar, but I think I can at least 4 or 5 X's raise. So after a bit of tanking, I decide to make it $400 to go. Again, I'm targeting the straights that complete. I'm targeting 2 pairs. And like I said, specifically like ace X and then 2 pair holdings. And the reason that's important is that if I go any bigger, I feel like my opponent can pretty exploitatively like make a pretty nitty laydown with everything that's not a flush here. And again, I'm not targeting a flush. I'm looking to target pairs or 2 pairs. Either way, I could not put my bet out fast enough as Sean snap calls with the nut straight. Unfortunately, that is no good, brother. As we show down the nuts here. I don't like showing my nuts to other people at the poker table, but in this case, I enjoyed it because I won money. Let's go. Alrighty. As the session is coming to a close for myself, As we mentioned at the end of the video, we are literally here for a couple hours, then racing over to Vegas to play in the main event in the following morning at 11 a.m. sharp. I'm always going to support family like this. Anybody in the Southern California area, I'm going to show love to. And it's nice to see, you know, a small operation like this taking off and finding some success. I am in some really wonderful situations when there is a Mississippi straddle for $15, which is just a button straddle for 15 buckaroonies. I'm in the small blind with pocket tens. I make it $60 to go. Again, you got to make it a little bit on the larger side because one, there's a straddle out there, and two, I'm in the small blind. I won't have position on anybody in this hand, so I've got to make it inferior for them to call. Like, they just can't have a good price. Will in middle position calls, the straddler calls, and we're going off to a flop that comes jack 3 deuce with 2 spades and a club. All right, pretty good flop for our hand. I decided to bet $75 here, targeting specifically flush draws, middling pairs, straight draws, as, like I said, in this case, our opponent's ranges are fairly uncapped. At this point, Will decides to cut out a raise for $260. The straddle decides to make the fold, and now we find ourselves in a little bit of a precarious situation. At the face value, it might seem really strong for my opponent to be raising, but in reality, obviously, maybe it seems easier to see this as we can see their cards, but it just reeks of a bluff here. There's not a ton of value here. I mean, does my opponent raise king jack? Maybe ace jack, I guess. But besides that, every other hand that he raises here is a combo draw or a flush draw. Ace X of spades or like 5-4 suited or something like that. I think all those hands raise as often or significantly more often than top pair. So I end up making the call here, looking to play some post-floppy, turny, and rivery type situations. And that comes in ace of spades. At first, it's disgusting. I'm puking in my mouth. And then I think, hey, most of his flush draws that raise would have contained an ace of spades. So face value, it sucks. But in reality, it's kind of not that bad. Like, it eliminates a lot of his like really random ace X of spade holdings and kind of narrows his range down to, depending on if he decides to bet or not, like maybe king jack or king queen, like a random crazy bluff, or like I said, 5-4. Anyways, with the action checked over to him, our opponent tanks for some time and decides to make the check back. All right, we're pretty confident in our hand at this point, and we're going off to a river card that comes as 6 of spades. All right, we now have a flush, and it feels like the effective nuts to me. I feel like all flushes would have bet that turn. I mean, we've all been playing aggressive. There's no reason to trap. I'm the last person you need to trap. I'm going to give you action either way. So on this river card, I'm looking to get paid off by random pairs, just pretty much anything that is on the face of the earth that's not better than my hand, to be fair. So I decided to throw out a blocker bet of $50. After a brief moment of thinking, my opponent decides to do the unthinkable and make the call with king 5 of diamonds. This game is good, guys. It's really good, and we happen to be running really well, and I think we're playing all right. Either way, I mean, we're playing 50% of hands, so we're not playing that bad. We're playing okay post-flop is what we're trying to get at. Either way, get max value there from king high on a 4 flush board that was not even the same color as our opponent's hand, but nonetheless, happy to take it down, finally going in the right direction, and there's still more to come. For everyone that clicked the like button, massive shout out to you guys because look at it, we're running already better. Anyways, don't want to spoil the rest of the story as, like I said, we've got some pretty crazy hands to go over still. In this following hand, I find myself in the hijack. I make it $25 to go with ace-10 offsuit. Cutoff decides to make the call. The button makes the call. The small blind makes the call. Way too many people make the call. And we're going off to a flop that comes ace-8-4 with 2 clubs. All right, that's what I like to see. Top pair here, okay kicker. Multi-way, which is not that great. And I'm out of position to half the population. All right, action checked over to me. I've got to be c-betting this. There's still a ton of draws out there. Flush draws, straight draws, you name it, it's out there. I ended up making it $60 to go. Like I said, we're looking to size up here, making the price of poker a little more expensive. Everyone but the small blind makes the fold, and we're going off to a turn card that comes with 2 of hearts. Nice, pretty much a brick, not a lot to worry about. Straights and flushes don't complete. But it's interesting because my opponent decides to lead out for $150. Okay, this is kind of a reasonably big bet for the size of the pot. There's only like 200 some odd dollars in there. Betting 150. What's he repping? Shout out to Boski. He says that the best. I don't know what the heck he's repping, but I can't ever fold top pairs. So I make the call again, proceeding with caution because my opponent can definitely have ace deuce, 8-4, 8 deuce even. Nobody really knows. We're going off to a river card that comes a beautiful brick, but improves my hand as it comes the 10 of spades. Flush draws miss, straight draws miss, and we now make top 2 pair. With the action on my opponent, he thinks for a moment before deciding to continue his story and bet $250. Well, at this point, I now beat all valuing hands. Even if he has 2 pair, I can raise and he can still call it off with an inferior holding. So I end up jamming it all in for $750 total. He has about 500 behind. And my opponent pretty quickly makes a fold. As you guys can see, folded his second or first nut flush draw. He had the king high flush draw. So luckily that didn't come, as we had been losing to those 30%, 20% spots earlier. But here we got lucky in this one to not have to deal with any adversity. And we end up taking a really nice pot. And just like that, we are back in black and we are in for some business, making some money now, making some big hands, and even more so, finding a way to get some money. And just like that, we find ourselves on the very last hand of the session, but I promised you I would never not deliver. This very last hand, as you guys can see from the graphics, we look down at pocket aces, baby. That's exactly what we were looking for. We are literally, this is the next shuffle, so we're coming off of a heater. We couldn't even believe our luck. We're +1. We raised to $25. The hijack calls, and the cutoff decides to 3-bet to $50. Wow, the old min click. Even more interesting, the button decides to cold call the $50 3-bet, and the action's on me. All of my opponents, from what I understand, are playing like 700 max effective, which is not even that much money. At least relative to the pot size already. There's like, what, $150, $200 already in the middle. So I end up just trying to pot commit. And to be quite honest, this is a home game, and I had already called my time. I was looking to hit the road really to get to Vegas, and I was just like, you know what? Let me just jam all in. I don't want to take any, you know what I mean? Like, let's just get out of here. You know what I mean? Let's just call it a day. I jam all in for what is effectively, I assume like $700. Everyone folds except for the button, who has about $500 left in his stack. He has a pair of 5s. He's ready to gamble. He ends up making the call. After our early adversity with Will, it seems like we, for the lack of better terms, just ran way better at the end of the session. A lot of his big bluffs didn't get through because I just happened to have it. And in this case, it's a prime example of, I wish I could pretend like I just outplayed everybody, but I just ran good. It's just as simple as that. Anyways, we're going off to 2 runouts as I offered to run it twice, and we end up making no improvements to either one of our hands, and we just ship it. Another 1K plus pot coming in our direction. Happy is an understatement. We've not been running too well in the cash games, but like I said, ran really well today, but I felt like we played pretty solid as well. Found a way to get some big bluffs through with king high, and we ended up still VPipping nearly 50% on the session, which is maybe stupid to some of you guys and whatever fishy, but at the end of the day, man, I wouldn't invite you to my home game live stream if you were going to VPip 20% of hands. It's just not fun. I'm here to mix it up, here to have a good time. I'm thankful and grateful that these, group of players invited me over. Like I said, man, I love you guys so much more than you guys know. Thank you so much for supporting the Close to Broke family. You guys are a part of my family now. Let's start over me in person to quickly see how we feel at the end of a really fun session of poker. Okay, so was a lot of fun, but as we mentioned quite a few times, I've got to head out. I'm playing the World Series of Poker main event tomorrow, which is going to be a ton of fun. We have some driving to do, quite a bit of it. So we were into today's game for 2,000 and out for 36.90 or 36.40. It was, man, it was a lot. We did a lot. There was a lot of playing. There was a lot of action. Nearly a 50% VPIP, which I'm very proud of. We were trying to get in the mix. We were not here for an extended period of time. Shout out to Sly. Shout out to all the boys. They were super hospitable. Made me feel great. If you guys haven't already, check out their YouTube page. I'll leave a link right up here somewhere, and I'll put in the description. Live City Poker, if I'm not mistaken. It was a great time. Hope you guys have a lovely day. Stay happy, stay healthy, and more importantly, run good at the tables. Hopefully I freaking do something good in this main event. Otherwise, have a lovely day, guys. I've got a 4-hour drive to Vegas through the middle of the night, and then waking up at 10 a.m. Let's do this, baby.